Welcome back to the Philly 4 for 4 podcast. I know it's been quite some time since I've made anything. I've been really busy over the past couple of weeks, so sorry about that. But gonna try to get a little more consistent. Again, still really don't have like a schedule, but I'll keep you updated via Twitter or X and Instagram. So it was a long night last night. I'll tell you that much. But it's been a while since I've made a podcast, so there's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to jump right into it. And I want to start with the Flyers, starting with last night's victory. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Ever. That was horrible. Garnet Hathaway shouldn't be on the team today. That is disgusting. Disgusting. You had an empty net right in front of you. You can go outside right now in Philadelphia. Grab anybody on the street. Anybody. Teach them how to skate, and they'll score that. That seals the deal. That's the game winner. That's 5-3. Absolutely disgusting. This team has fallen off since the last time I mid pod. They have. There's no denying that. They lost, 6 straight, and then they beat Vegas, and they should have won yesterday. They should have won yesterday. Disgusting. I was very upset last night watching that game, and I saw that play, and I was like, oh my goodness. How does that even happen? I was already upset with the Phillies, which we'll get to. That's going to be the biggest part of this podcast because I don't like that game yesterday, but I'll tell you what, the Phillies have made me very upset over the last week. But wow. Disgraceful. Hathaway, I don't care about the injuries. I don't even care. Send him on his way. Call up Alex Bump. Call up literally anybody with any potential. Because I guarantee they put the puck in that empty net. I guarantee it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting from Garnet Hathaway. I don't know how or what. What was he thinking? He had time? End it. Shoot the puck. It's disgraceful. Now, Sammy Swiss, that's what they've been calling him. I would say, played average yesterday. There were a couple saves that I'm sure he wanted, goals that I'm sure he wanted back, but he did make a lot of tough saves. I'm not going to put, this is the first time in a while I'm not going to put a game on Sam Harrison. I'm not going to put it on him. That game is strictly on Garnet Hathaway. Empty net, dude. Put it away. It's unbelievable. So I'm saving the Phillies for last. So I'm going to jump to the Eagles again. Last time I made a video, it was before the Eagles playoff game. So the playoff game ended exactly how I think everybody deep down expected it to. Defense played good. Offense couldn't score in the second half. Yeah. Wow. Surprise, surprise. They fired Patullo, kind of. Apparently they're bringing him back in the organization. I don't know. My two highest candidates, I've been saying this to my friends, my family, as the offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll was my one, McDaniel was my two. I said, if you get one of those two, I will be happy. I don't even care. It's like a 50-50. McDaniel, they couldn't even get in the building. They had a virtual meeting with him. And then Daboll, if he doesn't get the job with the Bills, is taking a offensive coordinator job with the Titans. Ew. So obviously we have an issue here in Philly. We have an issue. You can't look at this roster, look at this offense and say, this isn't an attractive job. Because it absolutely is an attractive job. So what's the problem? My mind goes straight to two people. Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Jalen Hurts? I can see a world where it's both. I really don't know what else it could be. Because I can guarantee, don't say A.J. Brown. He's getting traded anyways, most likely. So, it's both. My thinking goes straight to maybe part of it is they want a quarterback that has the ability to change games. Has a great arm and an accurate arm. Maybe they want that. Maybe they don't want to work for Sirianni. I think it's both. Sirianni's an idiot. They know that. And I'm tired of people defending Nick Sirianni. I am happy because I'm on action. I see people are finally starting to wake up and say, wait a minute, this guy's not as good as his record shows. Because people will blankly look at his record and say, well, this is one of the greatest coaches. This is one of the greatest Eagles coaches in history. Right? No, absolutely not. This roster, he's made by his coordinators. He's made by his coordinators. Are you kidding me? Let's take a look at it. 22. My favorite coordinator in a long time, Shane Steichen. I loved Shane Steichen, and I love him as a head coach with the Colts. I think he's much better than Nick Sirianni as a head coach. But he called the shots. He had full control over that offense. Look it up. Look it up. Steichen had full control over that offense. And I loved Steichen's offense. The deep ball. It was such a fun offense to watch. Excuse me. But, wow. It was great. 23, then we bring in Brian Johnson. He stunk. You get me? He was horrible. Just disgusting. Where's Nick Sirianni? Is he going to get involved? Nobody really knows. Because if the offense is that bad, why isn't Nick Sirianni getting involved? He's supposed to be an offensive wizard. So if he's not an offensive wizard and he's not doing the offense, what is he doing? Being their friend? Being a pushover head coach? Yeah, exactly. But 23 was a disgrace. Johnson made it through the whole year somehow. They fired him after the season. And then bring in Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore starts the year slow. And then they say, well, we're going to give the offense fully to Kellen Moore. We won the Super Bowl. With that offense, with that roster, it's hard to not. It's hard to not. Best receiving core, if not top 5, top 3. Best running back that year. Best O-line. Solid quarterback. Solid tight end. Right? So yeah, they won the Super Bowl. Kellen Moore gets a head coaching job. And again, better head coach than Nick Sirianni. Just throwing that out there. And you go to this year. Kevin Patullo, another Nick Sirianni hire, by the way. Patullo stinks. People say, oh, fire Patullo, he's terrible. Oh my God, Patullo's horrible. Now, I'm not going to say Patullo's great, because Patullo's definitely one of the worst coaches I've ever seen in my life because he's pretty much another Nick Sirianni. But again, why isn't Nick? If this offense is that bad, why isn't Nick Sirianni getting involved? Because he can't. Because he stinks. That's why. Horrible, horrible coach. But his record, he's got 2 Super Bowls in 5. I don't care about it. I really could care less. Really. Look at the roster he's had. Look at the roster that Howie Roseman has given to him. 22, sorry. Nobody liked Jonathan Gannon. He was also very, very terrible. That defense was the best defense in the league, on paper. You look at that defense, you have one of the best quarterback duos in the league in Bradbury and Slay. Right? You had Javon Hargrave in a contract year. You had Fletcher Cox, who was still solid. You had Jordan Davis. That interior DT, that's incredible. That depth right there. You actually also had Milton Williams, but I don't think they utilized him as much that year. You had Prime Hassan Reddick. The guy was a monster on the edge. You had Brandon Graham. He was solid. You had your linebackers were Kaiser White was one of them. He was a solid. He's a tackle machine. Nakobe Dean, I believe, was a big piece of that team. And then, sorry, I almost forgot. I was forgetting somebody. TJ Edwards. Wow. Edwards is very, very good. He's with the Bears now. Then you go to the safeties. The safeties were CJ, who was very good that year. He led the league in interceptions, I believe, or was top 3. And then you had Marcus Epps, who was okay. That's horrible. That's amazing. Sorry. But Jonathan Gannon killed that. And that defense is incredible. And again, the offense was pretty much the same. Brown, Smith, all those guys, excluding, take out Barkley and add Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. So the running back core wasn't as good. But it's still a disaster that they didn't win the Super Bowl that year. Gannon was a big reason why. But at the same time, Sirianni stunk. What a roster he's got there. But he went to Super Bowl, one of the greatest. Now, stop. Again, 23, horrible, stinks. People see right past it. Oh, but look at his record. He said, I don't care about his record. When people bring up his record as a head coach and they tell you he's been 2 Super Bowls and success in the it's very hollow stats. Very, very hollow stats. Because the 2 years that the team did things, it was the offensive coordinators that had success. And last year, Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, who had a lot of success. Even this year, Vic Fangio had a lot of success. He was a very good defense. Defense wasn't the problem. It was the offense, which is what Nick Sirianni is supposed to be very good at, but he stinks at it. To this day, the most overrated coach, and he's going to go down as the most overrated coach ever because he's horrible. Horrible. So we're going to go to my least favorite topic of the day. And that's the Phillies. I'm not doing the Sixers today, just to let you know. A lot has happened since I last made a pod. Bo Bichette broke my heart. I knew there was too much smoke the night before when Tucker signed with the Dodgers, which is disgraceful, by the way, $60 million a year, and they're paying him $1 million this year. Like, what? But I knew there was too much smoke. I knew something was fishy. I was like, all right, hold on a minute. So much smoke. Somebody's got to be blowing too much smoke. I figured he'd be a Blue Jay or a Red Sox. Optimistic about the Phillies, don't get me wrong. I was really, really excited for him to fit into our lineup. But at the time, the Mets were having, if not the worst, one of the worst off seasons in the entire league. They had let some of their guys go. Nimmo, Alonso, guys that had been there for a while. McNeil, they let them go. And it looked like all they were going to do was add Polanco, maybe a depth bat. I figured they would probably add Valdez. But the Mets owner's smart, and the Mets general manager's smart. As soon as they were content, I think. I don't know for sure, but this is my philosophy of it. I think they were content with getting Tucker. They said, okay, we're going to get Tucker. We know the Phillies are after Bichette. We know Bichette's most likely going to sign with the Phillies. So we get Tucker, they get Bichette. We feel like it's pretty evened out. We can still make moves. They can still make moves. But at least we're matching them, and they're matching, right? That's what their philosophy was. They lose out on Bichette. You don't have that $60 million a year to spend that the Dodgers do. The Dodgers have infinite money. And apparently they like are amazing with the way it's structured because, like I said, Tucker's making $1 million this year. That is disgraceful to the sport. But again, they lose out on Tucker, and automatically they're like, oh my, we have to start panicking. Now, when they lost out on Tucker, I'm sitting there in my bed, I'm saying, okay, so I would assume the Mets are going to pivot to Bellinger because they like to take the Yankees' old players, right? They pivoted, but no. They're smart. They say, we have more money than the Phillies. We take Bichette from the Phillies. We do it. Go do it. Do it. We give them, what was it, a 3 or 4 year deal, and there's opt-outs in every year, $42 million a year. Now, as a Phillies fan, you need to see this from two perspectives, excuse me. You can see it, you can sit there, you can cry, you can be like, oh my God, he was the perfect bet for our lineup, he was going to be the guy, he was going to be so much fun to watch, part of this big four. But you also need to realize, which was, by the way, that was me for a little while, but it's also, you need to realize, looking at this contract, first of all, it's a 1 year deal. If you saw the interview yesterday, John Heyman in the interview asks him, there's opt-outs in this deal. Do you think it's going to be a 1 year deal? How do you expect to be? How long do you expect to be here? And he goes there, and he sits there in quiet, and he looks at the, I don't know who it was, general manager, maybe Scott Boras, and he looks at him, he's like, yeah, you give him the silent treatment. Of course, he's going to opt out next year, probably, you would think, unless he's a horrible year. But you got to look at it in multiple ways. First of all, this is a guy that's never played third base in his entire career. So you're paying the guy $42 million. This guy also can't stay healthy for a full season. His knees are bad. Now maybe it'll change when he goes to a different city. That's what I was hoping with the Phillies. But I wouldn't have given him $42 million a year because he's not worth that. He's not worth $42 million. He's worth the 28 the Phillies gave him for 7 years. He's not worth $42 million. But they pivot and they get Bichette. They say, here, take our money. We'll give you $14 million more than the Phillies per year, but it's shorter term. And he says, last minute, yeah, you got me. I'm going to New York. Like, wow. That hurt. That hurt. I was sitting there, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Of all the teams, though, I was kind of, I knew there was too much smoke. I was like, oh, man, he's going to have Toronto. And I would have been upset, but I wouldn't have been as upset. He signed with the division rival Mets? My first priority is going to be to win. To win? With New York? You're not winning squat. That dump of a stadium? Ugh. Really? Ugh. It's disgusting. But that's not the worst part about it. It's that, an hour, 2 hours later, Dave Dombrowski, salt on the wound, giving JT $45 million, 3 years. Are you kidding me, Dave? Are you kidding me? You got us all excited. We're not running it back. We're not running it back. We're not running it back. Oh my God, let's go. You got us all excited. And you go right back to JT and say, here, take my money. 45. In what world is JT worth $15 million? This year. Let alone in 2 years. He's not going to be worth $15 million in 2 years. His biggest attribute is his defense. That's what he brings to the table, his defense. In what world? Should he be getting anywhere near $15 million? Let alone, again, the 3 years? 38 years old? You think he's going to be good at defense still? I mean, maybe. He's a freak athlete, but the bat won't be there. That is a horrible contract. He's going to hit 8th for you this year. $15 million to hit 8th? Are we kidding? 35 years old. Look, I love JT. The perfect world would have been signing Bichette and having JT had to crawl back on a shorter term 1 to 2 year deal with less money. That would have been perfect. That was a perfect world. But no. He goes crying right back to JT as soon as Bo signs with the Mets. Come back, come. You act like signing JT is going to help us. The Mets add Bichette. And they aren't done, by the way. I haven't even got to the moves that they made after that. Days later, they interview Dombrowski. They say, what do you think of the offseason? Blah, blah, blah. All those questions. What does Dave say? We're content with our roster. I think we're in a good spot. And then I hear on Twitter, they're going to add depth piece. Are you kidding me? Depth piece? So we're running it back. And then Rob Thompson comes on. It's 20-25% of the roster. We're not running it back. You're absolute. What, you changed the bullpen? Congratulations. You changed the bullpen. Now, don't get me wrong. I am excited about the bullpen. I think the bullpen's going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. But you are absolutely running it back. You're replacing Castellanos with a guy that is a huge question mark. And I've said this before on an earlier podcast. Adolis Garcia is a good signing if you could add something around him. You add a bigger piece to the offseason. You can't rely on him to be the biggest piece. Now, it's not over. We have a couple of weeks until the offseason comes to a close. My favorite free agent is Eugenio Suarez, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But he talks about Justin Crawford. He talks about Andrew Painter. You're putting a lot of weight on Crawford, on Painter, on Garcia. You're putting a lot of weight on their shoulders right now. Because you're content with this roster. Meanwhile, in the last week, the Mets have done exactly what Phillies fans have been saying the Phillies should do for the past 4 years. Change it up. Please. We're not saying trade Schwarber, trade Harper, no. You got to add something around them. The Mets let Alonso walk. The Mets let McNeil walk, or traded McNeil. The Mets, they trade Nimmo. They changed it up. Right now, in my opinion, they're winning the offseason. Unless you want to count the Dodgers. They added Polanco to play first base. He's only played one game there. So that defense might be terrible, but that's not the point. They added Polanco. They added Semien. They added Bichette. They added Robert. 2 days ago they traded for Robert at night. Luis Robert Jr. for a bag of chips. Now they took on the whole contract, that $20 million, but... And then, of course, last night they added Freddie Peralta, and they added Tobias Myers. That's a lot. And that's a phenomenal offseason. You cannot be content with the Phillies roster while you see the Mets do this. Because right now, in my mind, you don't stand a chance against the Mets, right? If McLean pitches to the potential that he absolutely can, and I saw him pitch last year, I've watched the highlights this year, I've watched his college highlights. This guy is I think he's going to be really good. He scares me. But my word. What a terrible offseason from Dave Dombrowski. Now, it's not over. Maybe he's blowing smoke. Maybe he's saying, we're not going to sign anybody. And then he'll go out and sign somebody. The people want either one of Bohm or Marsh gone at this point. Where I'm at right now, you need to address the 4-hole. You cannot come into the year with Bohm batting fourth for the second year the third, fourth year in a row. Bohm is Not a four hitter. I know you want him to be, but he's not. There's a four hitter sitting in free agency right now. I don't know how much he's worth. 15 to 20 million a year. But it'd be a short-term deal, 1 to 2 years. Go get Eugenio Suarez. That's where I'm at. I know how old he is. I know he's 34, 35. But he's got pop. 41 home runs? 49 home runs last year? He's the perfect four-hole hitter. He plays third base. He's a righty. Then you trade Bohm. And if you get Suarez, you trade Bohm for scraps. Who cares? You cut Castellanos, and your lineup looks that much more better. And you compete with the Mets that much more. If you add Suarez, your lineup is Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Suarez. That big four right there has tremendous pop and contact. Turner's a 300 hitter. Maybe a little bit lower. A high 290s hitter. Ton of speed. Then you add Schwarber. He's a 50 home run hitter. 40 home run hitter. You can bank on that every year. Harper. Kind of a question mark, to be honest with you. But I think he'll be a 30. I think he'll have a much better year this year. Suarez. He might hit 220, 230, 240. But the guy's going to hit you 30 to 40 home runs in that four hole. Exactly what you want. You move to the outfield, or you move to the 5 spot, where, in my mind, you bat Adolis Garcia. Tremendous pop off the bat. Another kind of guy that's probably going to hit 230, 240, 250. But, again, tremendous pop. There's a chance this guy could reach 30. Maybe he gets 20, 25. But there's a chance. And I absolutely think that he's due for a big year. Despite the age, despite the declining, I think that he signs a one-year deal with the Phillies because he wants more money. He wants to kind of earn that contract. But he's your 5 hitter. Your 6 hitter is probably Brandon Marsh. Yeah. So, not a huge fan of Marsh, but I would be fine with it in this case. 6 hitters Marsh. Your 7 hitter Stott. Your 8 hitter Realmuto. And your 9 hitter, Crawford. That's a good lineup right there. That's a very good lineup. That helps you compete with the Mets. If you wanted to be super nice. Now, if you don't bring in Suarez, which I actually don't think they will, I hope they do, but I have not seen them linked to him at all. But maybe they'll swoop in after the Peralta trade last night. Go out. Maybe you re-sign Bader. Bader brought a spark to this lineup. You trade Marsh. Bader in center. Crawford in left. Bang. That's what you got to do, though. I'm very upset with this Phillies offseason. I really am. We're running it back. Don't tell me you changed 20-25% of the roster, because realistically, you really didn't. You really didn't. Another thing I didn't mention yet was Suarez also signed with the Red Sox. Now, I was a guy that didn't want Suarez back. And I don't believe he's worth the $26 million that the Red Sox paid him. But we'll see, right? What an offseason. What a couple of weeks. Eagles lose. Flyers go on a huge losing streak. Phillies are having the worst offseason. I mean, Bichette's supposed to be a Philly, and the guy signed with the Mets. And we pivot back to JT. Ugh. What a horrible couple of weeks for Philly sports, I'll tell you that much. And again, I plan on making another pod sometime next week, I'm hoping. But again, I'll keep you updated via Twitter. via Instagram. So, what a rough couple of weeks here. All right, that's it for the Philly 4 for 4 podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening, and let's go get Suarez, right? Go get Avania.